Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Coffee Code and Chat Friday night. We're just gonna hang out. I'm gonna talk about the project that I'm building. I hope everybody's doing awesome. And let me know if my audio is clear, if the music's not too loud. And definitely let me know in the chat that you're here. We're gonna have a lot of fun. I say that every stream, regardless how they go. But today what I wanted to do is kind of review the progress I made on my application, talk about the tech that I'm using, and literally want to engage with all of you in the chat. So don't be shy. And again, regardless of how many people we get here on the stream, I'm going to continue to stream every Friday the coding part of me building my projects, because at the end of the day, the most important thing I want to do is showcase the fact that when you're learning to code, the most important thing you could do is build stuff from scratch yourself and go through the process. And I do these unedited, unprepared Friday night coding streams because I want people who are starting out to see the reality of what it's like to code. But if you're just joining us, say hello in the chat. I think it's going to be, I'd love to hear from you. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you like what I do here, definitely retweet this on Twitter. I think the more people we could get to the stream, the merrier. But I hope all of you are having a really good Friday and having a good time. But today we're going to talk about what I built so far. I'm going to show you my project. I'm going to show you how far I got, and talk about what the next step, talk about things that I learned, talk about things I didn't learn and the mistakes I continue to make. I think it's always fun to have this real approach on coding and kind of showcase to people. It's like, hey, this is how coding works. This is what you will experience. This is what you're going to do. So say hello in the chat. Let me know. Northern Chimp is here. Great to have you. And so it's going to be a good time. So again, thank you for watching Coding, Code, and Chat, where today I'm going to live code or talk about my project that I'm building. And if you are building your own projects and have questions around certain things, let me know. I know that I'm using Remix, Strapi, and Tailwind for my project, but whatever you're building your project with, let me know and let's have a discussion around. And if you don't know who I am, I'm some random dude who started learning to code late in his life and eventually got hired. So if you're looking to switch careers or you're getting into coding, I stream Friday nights, 9 p.m. US Central Time, where I live code and struggle through the process so you don't have to. And then on Saturdays, I do more of stream around how to get hired, how to break into the industry, and all that other great stuff. So definitely come on by, join. But today we're going to continue reviewing the project that I'm building. And if you have any questions around what we're doing, let me know. The most important part of the stream is for me to have a conversation with you. And so while we're having more people jumping on, I'm going to quickly share what I built so far. So I have this concept for this project called Dev Hunt. And here's a basic landing page. And again, right now I'm just trying to build the most basic MVP of functionality. Ideally, what I want to do, like here's my landing page. I need to hook this form up to be able to capture emails to my backend, which we'll set up later. And let me know if the music is too loud. Probably is, so I'm going to tune it down a little bit. And then we're going to have our about section, our resources, our projects that people could check and follow. We'll have a blog, we'll have our community section, but we also have this dashboard section where people are able to log in and they could manage their projects that they're working on and kind of see. And so right now, like the basic functionality I have so far, you're able to log in, you're able to log out, you're able to create user, you're able to add a project, you're able to, if you have a project, you're able to add notes. I do have to, so you're able to go edit, you're able to edit a node, you're able to add a task. You're not able to delete yet, which we'll figure out why. I have to look into more how to do that. But the functionality is slowly getting there. And my goal with this project is to create a minimum viable project which has some sort of functionality that I could start putting users on as soon as possible. So the goal here for me is to have this feature of you be able to, number one, I have to build out these pages, which will be easy, it's just content. But what I want most importantly is have a section of projects of people that want to showcase their projects. They're able to showcase them here, and you would be able to follow and interact with people's projects. So the idea for this application is to create a place where you could manage projects, and then you could follow other people's projects, work together. You'll have a tasks section. Like for instance, if I go to a project here, you'll have the tasks section where you could put all the tasks or all the bugs that you're working on. And the cool thing is people will be able to upvote a task, and you'll be able to, and people will be able to ask you if you need help, and you'll be able to assign tasks to people that follow your project. So the idea is to promote this environment where people are able to work together on projects, peer program and code. And for the initial kind of MVP, I just want people to be able to add a project, add tasks, notes, comments, and be able to follow other people's projects and have these discussions. And then once that functionality is done, I'm going to continue with it for now. So that's what I'm building. If you have any other questions, let me know. And Nuno Costa, hey, welcome. He says, great job with Remix Conf. My gosh, that was like amazing opportunity. So those of you who don't know, I was one of the MCs for Remix Conf, which was like really, really exciting. I've never done something like that. So man, that was a lot of fun. The Get Nation, who kind of set up the whole event, they did very professional, very amazing job. Hey, Jose, what's up? How you doing? And yeah, anytime you all have any questions or want to chat about something, just let me know in the chat, because I do want to have these streams be engaging. It's not just me like struggling through my code and going through the process, but it's more importantly of us kind of working together and chatting about stuff, even if it's not related to what I'm doing on the screen, by the way. So don't be shy. And for any reason, if you do want to support this channel and you have money lying around for no reason and you just want to give it away, you could always buy me coffee. You could just take the picture of the QR code to go to the website, but you don't have to. I just put it there just in case someone wants to, like, you know, do any support. Like, definitely pretty awesome if you can. If not, it's not mandatory at all. And so let's go back to the project. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk you through first. Initially, let me just share the tech that I'm using for my project. So I'm using Remix. If you've never tried Remix, I know Next.js is super popular, and I love Next.js too, by the way, but I've been doing majority of my personal project. So right now, this is where I'm at. If I have a choice to choose what tech stack to use for front end, I'm always going with Remix. It has like really awesome benefits, and some of the things that Remix does, even though, for instance, Next.js has some sort of thing where they do nested layouts like this, like Remix, but it's not the same. Like Remix definitely has a better implementation of it. And again, what I said, I still love Remix and Next.js. Next.js is cool. Remix is just my favorite and preferred way to code things when I have a choice. So if you've never done Remix, I'm using Remix, and if you want to learn about it, ask me questions in the chat, but it's a lot of fun. So that's for my front end. Although Remix is a full stack framework, I'm literally using Strapi for my backend. So if you go to strapi.io, and what's awesome, we are going to have a Strapi cloud feature coming soon, which will be awesome, which means that you could have hassle-free hosting in the cloud, hosting your Strapi application. But what's awesome, what Strapi does, it creates a backend for you, which allows content managers to edit your content. And it's really awesome. I love it. If you want to set up an API really quickly, you could literally set one up in 5 minutes, and you get access to this amazing admin panel. What's awesome about Strapi is open source, so it's free. Anybody could go and get started. You could literally just copy this command to try it out. Or if you want to just see the project without having to locally do anything, you could try a live demo. Doesn't matter what you put here, but when you select you want 8 hours, 12 hours, or whatever, you click access live demo. What it's going to do is going to provision a demo app for you where you'll be able to get and check out the front end and the back end. So for instance, if I go from the front end here, open link in new tab, you'll be able to see a demo of our Food Advisor app. And my internet's slow, so that's why stuff loads slow, but that's okay. And then if you want to see, well, how's this content managed by Strapi in the backend, you also have, oh, I'm zoomed in too much. You also have your Strapi admin panel here. Let me copy this password. And you could kind of check out Strapi without even trying it locally. Go to here and you'll be able to log in. And let me switch to, let me zoom in a little bit. And so not only do you have your client that you could see and play around with, kind of see like restaurants and how we display the data, but you could also log into Strapi and see how that data is managed. Like you could look at the restaurant content types, check out how we are managing the data, and you get a feel for how the Strapi UI looks like and how it could allow you to create really cool backend really fast, where your content or editor, manager or editor have the freedom to update the data that will update it in your app. And that's why I chose that route for my project, because I want to get to market as fast as possible and I don't want to recreate the wheel from scratch. So for my front end, I'm using Remix, and for my back end, I am using Strapi, which is pretty awesome. And you could, again, check it out at strapi.io. And we're really excited for cloud coming soon at some near future, which will keep everybody posted. And of course, for CSS, I'm using Tailwind, and I actually bought a theme to make things easier. You don't have to buy it, but I'm using the Tailwind UI templates, which is pretty awesome. You have access to amazing, beautiful components. Like for instance, here's a pricing section. So instead of having to write my CSS myself, I'm literally just using this component library. But basically, you don't have to get the paid version. Just know that I'm using Tailwind to make my CSS life easier. And so that's what my project is. And so far, this is what I built. I have a landing page, which is powered by Strapi. We're gonna dive into the code for sure. I have my dashboard section where you're able to see your projects, and you have tasks, notes, comments, and I'm slowly kind of building out the general functionality. I did update the personal information, the bio here, where you're able to change your avatar, you're able to change your name, your last name, your GitHub link. So we're making progress. And if you don't have questions, that's perfectly fine. But I do love to interact with all the people that are joining us. So feel free to ask any questions about anything at any time, because I'd love to have a discussion around programming. It just doesn't have to be around the project that I'm building. So let's take a look at the code. So I'm going to start my server first. So this is my Strapi server. I'm going to run the yarn develop. Actually, I probably should have, well, I don't have to kind of go into details here yet. Let me log in. And so this is the backend for my project. And I have these content types here. I have author, category, email, page, post, projects. And currently, whenever you see the project, the data is coming from this content type. And right now I just set really basic stuff just to connect everything together, but we'll add like more things as we go along. So right now we got the title, the tech use, description. We have the author that created this project, and you could assign tasks to the project. So whenever someone goes to a front end, right, where we at here, whenever you go to your projects and you click a project, that's coming from the API here from Strapi. And so the next thing I want to do is I want to start my client. Let me just make sure that I'm pointing it locally and not to the backend here. So here's our client code. And let me point it locally for now, because we'll be doing some local developments instead of pointing to my deployed backend, which is fine. So let me restart my client by running yarn dev. All right. And here's my project running locally. I'm like too zoomed in. And so again, we did get the registration to work. So our registration works. Our login page works. So I believe I have a user, John Wick, really good user, I think. I gave him the same password, so I'm able to log in as John Wick. And like I was mentioning, we have the login functionality, we have the logout functionality, we have create users, we have this concept of pinned projects where you're able to have and set pin projects that you have easy access to. Then you have a list of your projects that you're building, which you could click on. And for each project you have the basic data, and then we implemented tasks. You're able to add a task, right? You're able to edit a task. You see, edit it. Deleting, I didn't implement yet, so it blows up the app, which is something we could take a look at later today. Or if you have questions around the application, we could talk about it. And we still have to implement notes and comments. Also, I want to implement this ability of having projects be visible. Maybe that's something we could do today on our public page. So what I want to have, ideally, all the people that have their projects that are set to public to be able to go to the project section and see all the public projects that they have, and hopefully you could click to get the basic information, and then also maybe add an option which allows us to follow projects, for which if you want to follow, you have to have an account and a username. And again, I'm not an expert on Remix. I'm still learning Remix, so this is going to be a learning experience for us as well. And let me say, Nuno, thank you so much, saying looks good so far. Yeah, and then Brian, great to have you here. And so if I had to talk about a Remix for a bit and tell you why I'm using it, I want to show you just the code of Remix. So here's the structure of my Remix application, and the reason why I love it so much, and I know Next.js now has this feature where you're able to do nested layouts, and I'm actually going to explore that feature with Cody from Web Dev Junkie this Sunday. So go to his channel, Web Dev Junkie. Actually, let me share the link. Where we're going to explore how to do nested layouts in Next.js. But to be honest, after trying it out, I still prefer the way Remix does things. And so from all my personal projects, I've really been laying heavily on Remix. And if you're wondering, is Remix a good option for you? What I would say, they've been acquired by Shopify. And so, there's a big company that is behind it now. So you can have all the confidence that it's going to be continued supported. So I'm going to be on Sunday with Web Dev Junkie. We're going to be doing a stream on trying Next.js 13 and Strapi together. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to talk about the nested features and some new features, some features that are in beta right now in Next.js. So if you're interested, definitely check it out. But in terms of the way nested routing is handled, for instance, if you look at the dashboard, I have this dashboard, then I have this nesting that happens here, that if you click a project, each individual, there's some additional nesting here, and then each additional project has their own nesting, which if you used Next.js before, this is something that was really tough to do, which Remix makes super easy. Even after all the updates Next.js did, I still like the implementation of Remix, and that is why I'm sticking with Remix. And if that was too much that I just said, I just want to show that I am biased, but I have projects with Next.js as well, and I love both frameworks the same before someone tells me that I'm a Remix shill. I just enjoy the development process. So let's take a look at the code. So if you look at the code, we have this concept of routes, and it's using file-based routing, but under the hood, it's using React Router, which is really awesome because you get a lot of cool features with that. So let me just close this to make the screen better. So if you go to our app, and the big concept in the Remix is this routes folder, and whatever, because it's using file-based routing, whatever you name your file, that's going to be the URL route or endpoint. So for instance, I have about, blog, community, dashboard, index. And so when you're taking we also have this test one, which I don't remember what it is, but we have this test here. And if you go home, and for instance, any index route would be when you don't put anything URL, but if we want to go to test page, you just add that, and boom, here we are. We have our test page. Oh, look at that. That looks so nice. Look at that. That's so beautiful. I literally stole this. This is actually, there's this service called Shuffle where you're able to create and get Tailwind HTML code. So basically, I just pulled it because they use Tailwind. It works perfectly nice in my app, and so I don't have to worry about styling, but that's cool. So these are your routes. And so if we take a look at Remix, you could see every file name that we have, that's an individual route that you could go to. Now, if I wanted to do a nested relationship, what I would do is I would create that initial file name, and this will be called your layout route, which controls your layout. And the way you get access to your children is through this outlet. And if you use React Router with React, then learning Remix would actually be even easier because you will understand how it works under the hood. And so the dashboard is responsible for the general layout. And again, I know I'm too zoomed in. Let me zoom out here for a little bit. And basically, when you go to dashboard, this view here, this component is basically my side navigation here. And then the main is the content that you see on the right. So if you look at my code, dashboard, when you go to dashboard, notice we're hitting that dashboard endpoint, we're hitting that layout route. The layout route that I just showed you has that navigation menu that you see here on the left. And then all the children routes are rendered here on the right. And that's the awesome part about Remix, how easily it makes it. So we're in our layout route, and then all the children's are rendered through this outlet here. So when I go to my dashboard, notice I have my index. This is basically when you go to dashboard, this is what's gonna load in that outlet. So when I don't put any additional parameters in URL after dashboard, it will literally land on this index route where you see our pinned post and our list of projects and stuff like that. So whenever someone lands, notice how there's no additional parameter here, it is displaying that index page. And then I have some nested routes on the dashboard. I have projects, which is also additional nested routes. So when we go to projects, we have our layout page. So did I hit profile? When we go to projects, that's the layout route. And then when you go to dashboard, there'll be like the parent folder and everything that, well, I'm talking about projects, but when you go to projects, when we hit no parameters, it will go and default to the index page, which is basically, it says, hey, create a new project. And I know I have new projects, I just too zoomed in. You could create a new project and it shows the list of projects. So whenever you hit that index, that's what you have there. And then we also have children routes for profile and each project detail page. So notice how we have dashboard projects. If I hit the projects, we have our project with the detail page, which is awesome. And then we also have our profile that lives in the routing. And so if you have any questions, let me know. If not, that's perfectly fine too. But to me, the way Remix handles the routing is super awesome. So that's one benefit why I prefer to use Remix. Another reason I want to show you here is, check this out. Let's go to our, let me make it bigger. Let me know if you could see things clearly. But let's go to our index page, right? So here's our index page. And what is the index? That's too zoomed in. What is the index page responsible for? Let's take a look here in a second. And this is something for later, but we'll come back to that in a second. So let me show you the index page first. And so when people land on the home page, it's basically the landing page. And what I like about Remix, how easily they're able to get the data and they make it so nice. And Web Dev Junkie is here, Cody. And yeah, so the stream that I mentioned that we're doing Sunday, this is Cody I was talking about from Web Dev Junkie. Go check out his channel. He does really amazing content. And I recently rediscovered his shorts, which gives you bite-sized JavaScript tips, which were really, really helpful. Cody is like, so what I love about like YouTube is an interesting space, right? And so there's anybody could be an influencer. What I like about Cody, he's like a legitimate developer, and I love to see channels from people that do development for work because it's one thing having and being an influencer, but to me that's not the people I want to follow. I want to follow people that are literally doing the thing that I want to do, which is continue to be a developer and get better at development rather than better at YouTube. I feel like YouTube is a good side project, but the main goal is for us to be better developers. And if you want to be better developer, definitely check out his content. So I'm looking forward to our stream we're going to do. And man, let me tell you, I did go and do the Remix Conf, which was awesome. I had so much fun. Thank you, Web Dev Junkie, for that. It was like fantastic. And the thing that I wanted to say is, there's something about going out and building connections. Let me just tell you why networking is super important. The reason why I want to say this is because I met Cody, Web Dev Junkie, on YouTube, right? And I remember one time we were just chatting, and he literally, and I was saying, hey, at the time I was looking for another job, and he's like, hey, my company is hiring, let me connect you. And I was able to get a referral from him to at least get an initial phone call to learn more about what the company is and to start the interview process. Now, at the time, they were doing Angular, and I wasn't really looking to change into Angular yet because I'm still learning a lot about React and Remix, so I wanted to stay in Next.js. I wanted to kind of stay in that wheelhouse, but I made connections, found the opportunity through networking with other people like Cody. And that's why I tell people, engage in your local community, go to meetups. A lot of times people at meetups, they'll actually tell hey, my company is hiring, so if you want, leave your resume. And so the reason, to make this story shorter than it really needs to be, is that the reason why I was able to co-host Remix Conf is because I went out there and I built relationships. So how did it all start is I learned about Remix from a friend, where I was like, wow, this is a really cool technology. I really love it. Let me build some stuff with it. And to learn more about Remix, I started going to a local meetup where I just went to participate, to meet new people. I met Brooks, the person that organizes the event, and he saw that I was building some stuff with Remix on Twitter. And so he asked me, he was like, hey, we'd love to hear your experience. If you want to do a talk at the meetup and talk about your experience, even though you're a beginner, it's perfectly fine, because there's plenty of beginners that would like to hear what you have to say. So I actually ended up doing 2 talks at that conference, at the Austin Remix. And by the way, you could go to meetups.org, I believe, to find a lot of cool meetups in your area in terms of tech. But after doing, a bunch of meetups, participating in the community, getting to know Brooks more, he literally reached out to me. He's like, hey, I'm on the board of the Remix Conf and we're looking for an MC. I would love to recommend you. And so he hooked me up with the wonderful people from Git Nation. And there I was, co-hosting Remix Conf, which blew my mind. And this really shows this point where networking and making connections is king. And so I wanted to share that because I know that's where the conversation went. But I want to tell you, if you're afraid of networking, put the fear aside, do as much as you can, start getting out there, because that's going to go way longer than blindly sending resumes for opportunities. But anyway, back to the code. So we have our landing page here. And by the way, if you haven't smashed the like button, don't smash it for me, smash it for all the wonderful people here in the chat. And by the way, this is Coffee Code and Chat, and I'm some random dude coding after 30 because I switched careers. So really super late in my late 30s. I literally got my first job at 39 years old as a developer, which was pretty challenging to get, but hey, it's possible if you do the work. And so I stream Friday, 9 p.m. CST time, where I literally do live coding, where I bang my head against the keyboard and fail miserably in front of everybody. But I still do it because I think it's important for people to see the reality of what it's like building stuff on your own. It's never straightforward. It's never bug free. There's issues. And part of, or the charm of being a developer, is actually embracing that failure and learning from it and working through it. And that's why I do these live coding to kind of help with that. And then every Saturday morning, 11 a.m., I talk about the soft skills required, or strategies that you could use to improve your resume, or how did I go about reaching out to land my first job. So more of the soft skills required. So definitely join us for that. But now back to the project, back to the code. So if you look at our landing page here, we have our content that's kind of being dynamically generated from our API. And so let me go to my content manager here. And when we click pages, I have this content type called page, where in Strapi we have this concept of dynamic zones, where you're able to create pre-built pre-built components, that's a good name, of related information. So for instance, I have a hero section, I have features section here with components that content editor could easily update. We have quote, We have featured post, which right now I'm not returning anything, so it's not being displayed. We have CTA. And what's awesome, what you could do is you could create these components within Strapi, and you could make mirror components in your front end. So for instance, look, I have hero, featured quotes, featured posts, and CTA. And if we take a look at my website here, when we go home, actually, let me close this one. That's not the one that's running locally. Let's go here. So this is local 3000. So when you land, you could see that we have our hero section, we have our feature section, we have our quote section, and that's all coming from, let me close this one. I have too many windows open. It's all coming from my Strapi CMS. And I'm like, and check this out. If I want to, for whatever reason, move the hero section below the features, I could just move it like this, save, and it's not quite like a page builder, but it does give flexibility. Let me close this because we don't need this. But notice if I refresh, now we have that features section be in front. So it's not quite like a page builder, but what's awesome is that you are able to kind of have some flexibility of defining what content display source. And first thing, let me quickly do this shout out to Kellen. Kellen works with me at Strapi. He's an amazing dude. I definitely love to have him on stream. Super smart guy, amazing writer, just amazing dude all around. And we'll definitely need to get Kellen on stream, because one cool thing Kellen did is that he actually has a SaaS product that he created, and I would love to pick his brain about getting started with SaaS. What was his process? What was his planning? Because that's another option for people who will work. And this is the beauty, by the way, of being a developer, is you could have a job, but you could also find a problem that you see a lot of people commonly face, and you have the skills to be able to create a product that solves that issue, or a service around that fulfills a certain need. And I would love to have Kellen to be on. He says too kind. No, Kellen, I don't, you say that to everybody. I just am blessed to be surrounded by really cool people. And Kellen, you're one of them. And it'll be really, really cool to do a stream. I know you just recently moved and you're setting everything up, but we'll definitely love to have you. We could chat about anything, but I'm also excited to chat about kind of the process of how you created your SaaS product and the concept behind it, and, you know, what tips you would give for anyone who wants to create a service, software as a service. Yeah, no, that'll be amazing to have you here. So, and I always get nervous when people from work watch my streams, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like they're gonna judge so hardcore, but I don't care. That's the point of learning. Do it publicly. Here's another reason for coding in public and failing in public, is that instead of using your own brain to solve issues, you have all these awesome friends that will point out where you're making mistakes and help you solve your problems easier. And I get a lot of great tips from people in the chat, especially when I get stuck. So it's like using everyone's brain except mine. So that's really awesome. So we take a look at Strapi here. I showed you the landing page here. I showed you how within the content manager you could add the data. Like for instance, if I want to add an additional thing here, blah, I don't know, like Kellen is awesome. I don't know why I wrote blah, but like hello, like it could be anything. We could select an icon, which I have some icons that map to the icon list here, to the icons in my front end. So I could dynamically set that, click save. And now if we go back to our project and refresh, look, we have this additional feature here. And I love this dynamic ability to create an API really fast and have this ability to dynamically change the content. And this is why I heavily rely on Strapi, because I don't want to recreate everything from scratch. There's nothing wrong. You could build a full stack application with Remix. You could build like full stack application with Next.js. But the idea of using Strapi is I'm not only able to use this to power this particular website, but I could use it to power other things like my mobile app. For whatever reason, if you wanted to have this data available on your fridge, I could literally create an app for my smart fridge, which I don't have, but let's imagine I have a smart fridge, and I could literally pull data to my smart fridge from the Strapi instance, which is amazing. So great question, Jack. Does Remix do static site generation? No, it doesn't. It's all server-side based. And I guess that's like one thing to consider when you're building projects, how important it is. And also like I haven't looked too deeply into it, but if you put your front end behind a CDN, maybe that will kind of help, which I have to look into. But no, at the moment, it's not static site generation. So for that, Next.js is still better. Sorry, it gets me. But yeah, it's really cool. To me, though, the way you handle like data loading, like data mutation, like Remix still does a great job. And the implementation of nested routing is still better than what Next.js just released. So for me, for all my personal projects, I literally use Remix and Strapi until there's a specific reason why that doesn't work for me. But doesn't mean that I hate Next.js. Next.js is definitely a really, really good choice. And by the way, like for 2023, my goal is to become more of an expert with Next 13 and then more of an expert with Remix. So I'm able to really understand both frameworks on a very deep level to be able to give better answers why someone should choose one over the other. And at the same time, like, it's okay to have a personal preference where like, hey, I love Remix. Remix is the greatest thing ever. Strapi is the greatest thing ever. And for my personal projects or projects for my, like if I wanted to build something for, if I were doing client work, which I don't, but for a client, I would do the stack that I feel most comfortable. But if I was working at a company and the company's like, hey, our stack is Next.js and MongoDB, I'll be like, great, that's what I'm going to use and do. So there's nothing wrong with that. But coming back to the code, so we looked at this nature of how we have dynamic zones. And what's awesome is like, if I wanted to add another feature section, right, we have, let me move this down again here, save. But look, if I want to, I'm a content editor and I want to add an additional feature section to my app, right? Let me refresh here because I made the changes. Perfect. So here's my feature. Let's say I want to add another feature section after this quote. Strapi allows me to do that much easier. So what's cool, as a developer, I could focus on the code stuff, and the content editors in parallel could focus on adding the content. So for instance, like I'm like, you know what? I don't want this one here. Let me delete it here. And what I want to do is I want to have another feature section. So I'm going to click my add content and I'm going to pick these blocks that I made. And I'll show you how I'm handling that in the front end in just a moment. But hey, I want to add another featured section here. So I'm going to click here, another feature section, and I can't type to save my life. Thank God for Copilot that helps me type features, whatever, description, hey, all awesome folks, and I can't spell to save my life. And this is, if somebody's wondering how smart you have to be a developer, like I put that statement to the test because I'm pretty dumb. And then let's add like different things here. I'm lazy typing, so I'm just gonna add some very non-good like things here without typing. It'd all be cool to have a plugin in Strapi, which is awesome because you could make plugins for Strapi and you could check out Strapi Marketplace to see plugins available, but create a plugin which will dynamically allow you to put lorem ipsum inside the fields. I think that'd be cool. So let me save. And so I just added another feature section. And again, I want that feature to be between featured quote and CTA. And currently I don't have any featured post, so we don't even have this block displayed here, but we just added a second feature section. So let's click save, go to our app and check this out. I refresh and boom, we have our first features and now we have our second feature with lame content that I added. And I love that flexibility of Strapi to be able to allow developers to work together with content marketers in parallel, decreasing total time of development. I think that's magical. But we talked about the dynamic zones. We talked about these components that allow you to group relevant data that you want into things that make sense. And here's the magic here. On the front end, we'll take a look on this index page. Look what I have. I have this function called render page content. And the page that you see here is literally generated by this code here. And so when you go to our index page and you see this data, it is being pulled from our Strapi backend using our amazing dynamic zones and components. And I created this function called render page content, very original. And what that does, it will basically check the request and it will say, what components are you returning from that dynamic zone? And if that component exists, go ahead, render that component to the screen and pass the relevant data to that component. And so now I'm able to dynamically generate that page. And so if I go back here to kind of look, notice how we have those components that we pre-built in Strapi that have a front-end component. And yes, I could show my Strapi query. Man, Kellen, you're asking very difficult questions. By the way, Kellen wrote an amazing blog post you could check out at strapi.io, which talks about how to do advanced populate within your middleware, but I am doing it from within my application, and I'll show you that in just a second. So I'm doing things the easiest way possible for now, and then of course I'll refactor. But to finish up this content, this part of it is basically you're able to create and use this function that will basically, based on the response you get, will dynamically select which pre-built components we have on Strapi to display, which allows your content editors to dynamically change the data on the website with ease. Super awesome. But coming back to Kellen's question, this is another beautiful part of Remix here. So this is something that I will implement later that I didn't do, but check this out. So I have this loader function, which is specific to Remix, which runs on the server. And basically what I'm doing, and you could literally put all your logic here, and I'm doing like the simplest thing, so I didn't do any error handling at the moment, but I have this function called get page by slug, and anything that runs here, all of it runs on the server, which is awesome because until like the data exists, like it won't render the information. So notice how whenever you go to my website, there's no reason to have like loader spinners. Like, you know, if I refresh, boom, data's there. Okay, render it to the screen. We go to our dashboard. Boom, look at that. Data is loaded. It's there. This is actually interesting. Whenever you, I'll come back to this awesome Remix feature in a second. I'm too excited. Let me come back here. And so looking at the code here, we have a loader function that is responsible for getting data. You also have an action function, which allows you to make, let's say, like post requests or patch requests, which is awesome. So you would use actions whenever you want to mutate data, and you would use loader whenever you want to get data. Man, Kellen, Remix is really awesome. Next.js is awesome too, but Remix does certain things like really, really well. And I write less code with Remix than I do with React or Next.js. And again, I might be a little bit biased, but like I said, my goal for 2023 is to continue to dive deeper into Remix and Next.js and become just an amazing developer using both frameworks, because they're both really popular. You got Next.js with Vercel, and now you have Remix, which is backed by Shopify, which is really cool. But I created a subfolder, and I could have put all the logic in here, but I wanted to kind of organize it a little bit better. So if I go to my page API, I have this get page by slug, and what I'm doing here, this is what Kellen is asking. He wanted to see our query and how I'm doing it. So right now I am passing a query string. Well, yes, this looks like an object base. Oh my God, there's so much to unpack here. Let me quickly close this for a second. So let me start basic. So what I'm doing here is I'm making a basic fetch request to my endpoint in Strapi, which is API pages, and I'm passing my params, which in coolest thing about, let me back up here. This is what I'm going to say. So the coolest thing about, and I know this is about to be like video about Strapi, and it's not that like this video is about Strapi, it's the fact that I'm really love the features that Strapi has. So the coolest thing here, a lot of people, they like using GraphQL because it allows you to prevent overfetching or underfetching, because you're able to define what data you want to do. But using GraphQL also has its challenges, and one of the hardest things is how you handle caching, where if you work with REST, a lot of people tell you there's much better caching implementations that you could do to cache your data. And so a lot of people, though, would use GraphQL because they don't want to get huge responses of everything and overfetch. And so with GraphQL, they're able to define what they want to get back. So the way Strapi in V4 changed things is that it literally allows you to define the things that you want to get. So not only can you dictate and tell Strapi what data you want to return in your REST API, but also you're able to tell it what not to return. And so we have this idea where you're able to pass into your query string, populate, where you could able to define what you want to populate. And this is one way to notate. There's also a dot notation that you could do that will simplify this. If this looks confusing, it's not really that difficult once you start playing with it. But basically, I'm telling what relationships I want to populate in Strapi when I'm getting back the request, and I'm filtering by the slug. By the way, you could create custom controllers and endpoints in Strapi. So for instance, instead of having me pass this filtering here, I could literally create a custom controller just to get this data. Or you could use middlewares to dictate whenever I get a page, just return this data. So I don't even have to do it on the front end here. But that's kind of beyond the scope of what I'm doing here, because I really want to get things. Oh, thank you, WebDev Junkie. Very common of me not to share my screen because I get too excited. So let's review this again. So here I am, I'm making a basic request to my endpoint, and I'm passing params here. And what I'm doing here is basically have ability to use the populate flag, and there's many ways of using this. I know this kind of looks a little bit complex, like I'm doing, but basically what I'm saying here is I'm telling Strapi what content I want to populate, and this looks redundant. There's a simple way of typing this out, which I didn't know at the time, shamelessly. There's this dot notation, which makes things simpler, so which I'll refactor this later in my other video. But basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a query string of all the things that I want to get back from my response. So that prevents overfetching and underfetching, because I'm literally able to dictate what items I want to get back, and you're able to filter. And like I was saying earlier, instead of doing this on the backend here within my Remix application, I could literally put this logic inside a middleware, and Kellen did write an amazing article that covers how to do that. You could find it at strapi.io, and I'm able to literally also create a custom controller, which you just provide the slug to whatever the controller I make, and I'll only get the data that I want. So I don't even have to have this query logic on the front end if I didn't want to. And that's the beauty and the flexibility of Strapi. So Cody says, does Remix provide a similar API setup like Next, or is it achieved by the actions export? So I'm assuming like that what you're asking is, so I know in a Remix, for instance, not Remix, in Next.js, and I haven't used Next.js in a while, but you could do like get static side props or whatever. You have these functions that you could call to get data into your component. So in Remix, it's kind of similar to that, where the two main ones that you use is you have a loader function, which is to anything that has to do with getting data to display, you would put inside the loader, or anything that has to do with form submission, you would put into an action. And I'll show you a great example here. If you go to our register function here, and so inside the register component, and just to kind of put things into context, when you go to my application, you go to, let's say I log out and you want to register a user, this screen here, that's what we're going to talk about right now. And so inside Remix, if you want to post data, you would use or handle form data, you would use the action function. And if you want to return data, you would use loader function. But what's cool, like whatever you do in the action, you could still return the response. So for instance, I'm able to, and again, I didn't implement error handling here at the highest level yet, or check-in fields, which you could do all of that stuff on the, like here if you want. Right now, I'm just get the app working that I will refactor. But the idea here, and here's the coolest part about here, oh my gosh, this is gonna blow your mind about Remix. Before we continue to talk about this action, but we basically have this request object, which we're able to get the data. And what's interesting, you literally get the data from the normal form response that you typically get in HTML. And so let's take a look here in my code. And this is something interesting. Like, check this out here. So I have, so I have my inputs here, right? And check this out. Like, take a look here. Take a look and see where am I doing value. Like with React, a lot of times we are used to doing something like this, value, and then whatever we put our value, and then whenever we want to get value, we use e.target, whatever that value, you know, and we set it in state, right? We set it in state, and so a lot of times we'll have like, you know, form data, set form data equal, you know, use state and like whatever. And notice how I don't have any of that. So you're like, well, how are you getting the data? And this is the amazing like part about Remix, is that you're literally just using the basics of the HTML like web standards. So we're literally, the way we're getting the data here is we're getting it directly from the request that we're making in our form. So for instance, whatever I have name here, right, GitHub link, that's going to reference the data that's going to be inside this input that we have access when we ever fire that, submit that form, and we have access to it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for now, like kind of console this out so we could kind of take a look at it, and I'm going to return just an I'm going to return null here for now. I think that'll still work. And so we could console log the user data. And here's the cool part. So if I'm here in my application and I'm going to add Paul, Bratz, whatever, doesn't matter. GitHub link, some link, git.com, because it has to be a URL, and username, test, user, doesn't matter, email, test at user.com. I can't spell or type to save my life, password, test user. And so let's inspect here. Console log. Oh, I broke my CSS. I have to fix it. So let's go to network tab. Let's close it. And then when I submit the request here, and I will have to click through a bunch of these. Where's it register here? Preview payload. So now it's the payload here. We literally passing it inside the URL, and we're getting that data from our URL params, and we have access in a Remix inside that action function. So we're literally doing and handling form submission the way you would do it based on the normal web standards, and we're able to get access to what we pass in our URL string and get access to it within that action, and then we could pass it to our function, which will handle, you know, doing the functionality that we need in terms of, like, here it's creating and registering our user here. And so, and I think that's pretty awesome that a lot of times it's not that you're writing more React code when you're doing stuff with Remix, but you're literally just really relying a lot on the web basics, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, no, this is really cool. So for me, like, I'm really excited. And Web Dev Junkie says, actually reminds me of ASP Postbacks. Yeah, that's cool. Like, I've never played with them, but yeah, like, I think there's the thing that I like about Remix is that for me, like, I'm writing less code. And coming back to Web Dev Junkie for Cody, he says, so you can still do use effect and use state on your routes. You can, yeah, but there's no reason for it, right? The state literally is managed by your database. Your database is your source of truth. So you don't need to create or use Redux or context even if you don't have. Like, for instance, if you search this app for use state, I'm only using use state in few places, and that's literally to handle client side like functionality. Like for instance, here I'm using it to, where's my use state here? I'm using it to literally just make sure that to check the UI events when someone clicks the hide menu, show menu. So I'm literally using use state only for UI stuff. So if I go to my mobile view, I gotta fix this. The Z index is off, but that state for the UI here, controlling this ability to show and hide the navigation. And also, if we go to login, John Wick. Oh. I believe I'm also using state and some of my, let's go, I believe it's tasks. And I'm using state for, in this component here, to be able to kind of change the UI based on the selected item here. So you don't really need to use state as often as, or use effect as often you do in React or even in Next.js, which I think is kind of cool because I'm literally writing less React code. So like here, I'm only using state for UI purposes to be able to display the selected option in my input field. And let me know if that makes sense or not. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So coming back, I know we kind of trying to get to this point here, is that data loading is super easy, super convenient. So if we're back to our index page that we showed, I'm literally getting the data inside the loader, and it won't render anything until we get this data. So the UI experience is like super awesome, and then we're just showing the data to our users. So yeah, and by the way, like if you have any questions about anything, let me know, because I do want to have a conversation around what we're doing and not so much about kind of like just me talking one way. So feel comfortable to ask stuff. Yeah, I didn't make any huge changes here, so let me just revert some stuff here so I don't change random changes. This one I'm gonna keep for now, that's fine. And so yeah, by the way, if you're new to this stream, Friday nights at 9 p.m. CST, I stream live coding. And the reason I or fail stream as I call it, because a lot of times it's me just banging my head against the keyboard because I'm kind of running into issues every time doing live coding. And that's the charm of coding, is this ability of learning to code through making mistakes, figuring things out. And I think that's where all the learning happens. And so I like to stress, don't be shy of doing like coding on your own and building stuff from scratch than doing tutorials. Like stop doing tutorials, start building stuff from scratch. And the reason why I do this live stream at 9 p.m. CST time is to showcase like, hey, this is what real development looks like. It's not like, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to fail. And I do it so you all get the honest truth of what it's like. It's nobody just codes and everything is perfect. Maybe some people do that, but that's not the reality. And so I do it just to put it out here to show you this is the reality, this is how it does. And as you could see, like, because I've been coding from scratch and doing my own thing, learning and failing through my mistakes, I'm able to talk more comfortably about the code that I write. And I think that's another benefit. So regardless if people watch the stream or not, I'll still do these live coding sessions. And also a stream on Saturday, 11 a.m. where I talk about the soft skills or tips on how to structure a resume, how to apply to jobs, or what did I do, what like web dev roadmap I followed, what tips that I have, like general stuff like that, which is pretty cool. And so if you're not subscribed, you can do so. And yeah, and by the way, like you don't have to support this channel monetarily, but I do have Buy Me Coffee. If someone they like really love what I do and want to support me, that's an option for you. If not, that's perfectly fine, but I just wanted to put it out there. You know, I need to get that Lamborghini or Ferrari fund going, you know, like we gotta see, it's like, how long would it take in coffees? 100 years, 200 years to get to a Ferrari or Lamborghini. But all joking aside, like to me, you don't have to donate. You're more than welcome to not do anything. Just enjoy the content and smash the like button. But I just want to put it out there because people do ask me like, how can we support your channel? What can we do? Well, that's one way of doing it. And so, yeah, let's see any other questions. So we took a look at that. So I guess now we could talk about, like, I was kind of talking about, like, what did I want to do? And so what I wanted to do here is I wanted to have a way to display all the projects here that users have created. And currently, if we take a look at our content, if I go to projects, we take a look at projects right now, there's like, when we get projects, it will return all the projects. But what I want to do is I want to have people choose if they want their project to be public or private. And so maybe that's something we could talk about today, is how do we display only projects that are public. So if someone keeps their project private, they don't want to share on the projects page here, don't show it. And so we'll start the basics of it. And so one thing we could do is we could first add that feature in our API and to make sure it works. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you here. So right now, if we take a look at our settings, and when we look at roles, for now, the only way you could see projects is you have to be authenticated user, right? And so we are giving permission for authenticated users to be able to create, find, update, delete, or find one or find all projects. You need to be authenticated user to do that. But we do want to show public projects to non-authenticated users. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go here and into roles. I'm going to go to public, go to pages, and give permission. I already did at the beginning to be able to find one or find all the projects. Now, the one thing that I want to say here is that for now, the way we're going to handle it for the simplicity of things, we're going to pass the flag, like, is this private or public from the front end. But eventually we'll write a custom controller to handle this logic, because I don't want people to, be able to change the query params from the front end and get private data. No. We're going to put that behind permissions. We're going to add a policy to handle that. So, or a middleware where we decide to make sure we only want to return public data. But for now, just to get things working. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to test my API. So first, before doing that, I'm going to go to my project and I'm going to create a new field. So I'm going to go to my projects collection type and I want to add a new field. And we're going to call it, I don't know what we're going to call it. We're going to use a Boolean. And what should we call it? Like, is public? Why not? Let's call it is public. That makes sense. How do you spell public? That's not how you spell public. Man, I can't spell there's no K in public. Who would have thought? I can't spell to save my life. So we're going to say is public. And for initially, when people create the project, we want the default value to be false. It's not public. So you actually have to add the, Yep, Kellen, what you will find out that I'm the worst speller in the world. That's why I use Grammarly, but that's okay. You know what? It's fine. The slow typing and spelling allows me to slow down and think about my code more. I know that makes no sense, but that's how I justify it. So we're going to click finish here. And so now we added is public Boolean here. We're going to save. Wonderful. It does its thing. Now I'm going to go to my current projects that I have because we just added a new field. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to make one true, like one project is public, and then save, then go back. Let's make another project false. It's not public, save. And so now I want to test my API. And to test my API, I'm going to use Insomnia, the greatest API caller thingy tester. A lot of people like Postman. And a lot of people like Thunder Client right in VS Code. If you like Thunder Client, oh my gosh, like, I'm not saying I don't want to talk to you. Like, I'm not going to judge. But I don't like the idea of having VS Code be able to do everything. So I like Insomnia. I know some people like Postman. So what we're going to do here, let me make a new request here. We want to go to localhost, and we're going to kind of do things in steps. So the first thing I did a change in my API. I want to make sure that I could actually get the data from the API that I want. So let's do HTTP request going here, and I believe it's going to be API projects, and we'll take a look in a second. And we're going to do a GET request. Get projects. Click send. And obviously I'm doing something wrong, so let's take a look. And let's go back to our Strapi. Let's go to our permissions. Take role, public, and we are in projects here. Oh, so I didn't give the permissions to find. That makes sense. Hold on a second. Did I not save it? Projects. Oh, I probably, yep, the post projects. That's authenticated. That's fine. I just want to double check myself. And then roles, public, go to projects. Yep, so find one, save. Let me just make sure here that I want to get this. I probably misspelled something, 100%. Yep, so that's the good news. A lot of times the mistakes I make. By the way, a quick reminder, I know I already mentioned it before, but I'm going to be doing an amazing stream with Web Dev Junkie Cody on his channel this Sunday, talking about Next.js and Strapi. Go check it out. Cody is an amazing dude. Really love him. Makes amazing content, but I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you. By the way, yeah, projects, I can't spell. And that's why spelling is very important. And boom. And so we know everything works. But here's the problem. We're getting all the data, but we want to only return the data that we want. So we want to filter, and to make sure that is public as false. Now, the issue doing it from the front end, by the way, is that anybody could pass the parameter, like true, false, and see the private and non-private like post. So we will eventually change this logic to happen on the back end. But for now, for the simplicity, I just want to make sure that I could get the data and display it. So we know our API works. We just will have to filter on being able to get the data. So now the next thing is okay, I want to be able to filter the stuff, and we'll talk about it when we get the data. I'm going to slow things down. So we know this is how our response gonna look like from our API. So now what I could do is I could go into my front end and I could create some sort of front end here that's going to show the post. And by the way, I probably should plan things out better, but I decided that I'm just gonna do everything off the cuff here, just to kind of see and show what it's like. So what we're going to do, the first thing I'm going to do is go inside my code, and we're not going to build out this whole feature, but we know that let me zoom in a little bit, zoom out a little bit. Is this the right, blah, blah, blah. I just want to make sure, yep. So we're going to go into our projects. And what we wanted to do here is we want to return our projects. We're going to do some sort of list here. So this is where we want our projects. So I'm super lazy, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to cheat. But in the meantime, I'm going to kind of post this here to kind of have an idea of what our response is going to look like initially when we're getting our data. But right now, I'm going to basically create the UI. And for me, it's going to be very super easy because I'm going to cheat. And I'm using Tailwind UI components. And you don't have to use Tailwind UI. It's a paid library. I just prefer it. I know Kellen is a big fan. And what do you mean by what's the most API connections you have on the page? I think it depends on the route that I'm hitting, and I'm literally probably each route has a very specific API endpoint that it hits. yeah, and Kellen talking about the design, Tailwind UI design. It's pretty awesome. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to components and I'm going to see what makes sense. And I think I'm going to use this for my UI here. I'm going to click code. I'm going to, and notice how like a lot of times, by the way, I'm just going to copy and paste this. I don't try to think about how to, what's the word? Abstract things away. I just put everything in one place and then I figure out. In this case for now, like what I'm going to do, because it's probably going to be a repeatable thing, I am going to make a component, new file, and I'm going to call it public. Actually, not public because it could be more flexible. I'm going to call it projects or project list. I'm going to call it projects for now, projects.jsx. And so a couple of streams ago, I used Shuffle. And then another one, I just found this template called Landing. I forgot. I'll have to find a link for it that I used to. But basically, what I would say is just, so here, let me back up. Because like what I've used in my past stream, because I'm lazy doing stuff. And again, Shuffle is also paid. So I'm not saying people should use it. Shuffle page builder. I just like it because I want to be able, I'm too lazy. So what I'm able to do is literally go here and go create a new project. And you could select Tailwind CSS here, click a pre-built template here, start creating. And what you could do is like, you could go like, I like this navigation. That's beautiful. I want to have this header here. And then I want to have a pricing page inside here. My kitty cat is always liking to do stuff here. So I want to have a pricing page. This pricing page looks nice. Oh, hold on. My mouse. Where's the pricing page? Right, move it here, put the pricing page. What else do we need? We need some testimonials. This testimonial looks good. And boom, I'm done. And then I could literally either export the project. So if you have the, like, you do have to have the paid account to do that. Or like what I do here, I just click the HTML, I copy this code, and then I'll reactify it by turning this into JSX. And now I don't have to worry about writing CSS. And by the way, this is what I did for my test page. Let me kind of go back here, Shuffle. I don't know if I still have it here, but yeah, I deleted it here. But what I did is I created a layout here in Shuffle, and then I ported the code to my project here. So yeah, here I just ported this code here. And so now I have like a very nice layout, really well done without me writing any CSS or anything. Yeah, and if you paid, you could export JSX. And you're talking about Tailwind UI at this point, right? And I wonder if Shuffle exports JSX. That's actually a good thing to look into. But for me, like whatever, I have no issue taking the HTML and converting it to JSX. Is perfectly fine. And so like to me, like I don't want to write like CSS because my first thing is get the app to do the thing that you want it to do so you could get users on it quickly. And so writing CSS from scratch for me will just delay me from getting the app out there. But coming back to, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, go to, this is what I'm going to use for, yep, and I am using React, yep. I'm going to use this for our posts here. And what I'm going to do for projects, I'm going to make a component here, projects. Actually, I'm just going to copy and paste what I copied from my library here. And let me just delete stuff that we don't need here. So this looks good. And they have their data here that we're going to change the mapping in a little bit. And so now what I want to do is I'm going to call this projects. And we'll probably pass our data here, whatever it may be. For now, I'm going to set it to like an array, which we'll use later. And boom, work done. So now I'm going to go to my projects route. Nope, that's not it. Yep, projects route projects here. And then I'm going to import that component that I just did. My God, my microphone's right in front of my face, which is terrible because I'm not able to see like what the hell I'm typing. But that's no big deal. I can't type anyway. Import projects from component projects. And so basically what we did, I cheated. I used Tailwind UI to steal their components. Sorry, asking about shuffle. I couldn't find the JSX export. So I'm going to have to dive into it, but it would be nice if they had it, especially the fact that you're paying. But I literally don't mind taking the HTML and redoing it. I know it adds additional time, but I'm going to look into it because, you know, that would be a really cool feature. But anyway, so I cheated here. I used this layout here. So now we're getting that component. Let's take a look at our projects here. And obviously something's broken because it's giving me issues. Build failed. The symbol project has already been declared. That makes sense. Oh, so this is the project's route and a good naming convention. And so you don't have like something like happening here. Because this is inside our routes, it's technically not a project's component, it's a project's route. So I'm just gonna rename it and that's gonna fix my error here. So let's go back here, let's refresh projects. I might have to restart my app because it blew up. So let me go back here, or maybe yarn dev. Localhost 3000. No, there's another error. So, oh, okay. I must have not deleted some extra stuff here. Let me go to projects here. So because I copy and pasted, I'm assuming there's some comments somewhere. Yep. That I didn't delete. That's gonna fix it. Perfect. Woohoo! It's still broken. Let's see what other error we have. And this is like the let's see again. And this is why I love like coding live, because look, nobody's perfect. Like, you're going to make mistakes and it's normal. Don't worry about it. Just continue working. So now we go here and boom, look, we have our projects. And so now we have our UI all set. Granted, we have to change this to make sense, but now we have our UI. We know that we have a section for projects, and now we could start working on handling getting data. So what I'm going to do here for now, and then we will refactor. Again, my biggest thing is when I'm coding is get it to work and then refactor. I don't even care if my code is super ugly, which a lot of times it is, but no worries. So we already have this get all post. Good. We have this get all projects, which will basically be able to get all the projects from our endpoint. And so what I'm going to do, since I already created this, I'm going to reuse this, but eventually we'll create a middleware that will, or not even middleware, we're going to create a controller to be able to get just the public available projects and not get the private. So even if you pass a param here, like filter by public or private, you can't do that. But for now, we're going to do it this way. So let's first start with simplicity by trying to get the data. And it is very similar to what we've been doing. And this is what I like about Remix, is that the pattern is very, very similar. So if you take a look at index here, we're using actions to get our data. So literally we're going to follow this same pattern where we're going to call our loader function, call our function that gets the data from Strapi, and then return it. So I'm going to go to projects here, projects route, and I'm going to paste this in, and fantastic. And so instead of get page by slug, what we want to import is not get page, but we want to import get all projects from Strapi here. Let me go back here. And right now we're not passing anything into it. That's perfectly fine. because I don't think we need to pass any arguments here. And then what I want to do is import that. The weirdest thing I hate about Copilot is that it doesn't do a good job in handling your imports. So we're gonna see it. So we want to go to API, and within API, see, like it should, no, that's not it. Come on a second. We go API. So projects is correct. And then, oh, nice, it's working. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. So then we want get all projects. That's what we want to pull from here, right? So we want to get all of our projects. Get all projects. Perfect. And so now let's check if that works. And by the way, if you have questions, let me know. If not, we'll just continue. And by the way, if you haven't smashed the like button, you don't have to. But if you are going to smash it for your friends. So we already tested that endpoint. We know it works. We know we're getting the data. So like we could move this Insomnia screen out of the way for now. And then, okay, let's refresh this for now. So this is fine. So now let's see if we're able to see our data we're getting from our backend, which is Strapi, right? And so I'm going to console log the response here. And by the way, anytime you have the loader function, this is running on the server. So if I refresh here, right, we're not going to see anything in the console log on our front end, but we are going to see here the data that we're getting from our API. So we are getting the data. That's fantastic. So next thing we want to do is make sure that we are able to access this data on our front end, and that's very easily done. And we already seen a pattern of this in our index.js, where we use the loader function to make that call on our backend. In order to get access to that data, we use our use loader data hook found at remix run react. So that makes it easy for us to get the data. So I'm gonna do this because that's what we're using. Go back to our projects, and in our project route, we're going to get the data, and let's console log the data to see that we have access to it on the front end. And don't forget to import use loader data from use loader data from not React. Come on, Copilot. What the hell are you doing? That's not where we're importing it from. We're importing it from remix run react. And this is like Copilot. Sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not great. So let's take a look here. We refresh and take a look here. We have our data here, which is fantastic. We're getting that. But here's an issue at the moment is that we're getting both is public. This we shouldn't get, right? And again, we will write this logic to handle this on the back end, but for now, we're going to do it on the front end just to make sure that we get the data here. So what we have to do, we have to pass a filter in our request to just get the projects that we want. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have an example here. And what I love about when you start working on your application, you're going to have like examples in your code of stuff that you did, stuff that you worked. And so here's the pattern that we're using to get the data. And I have basically my, we could call it controller, whatever you want, method that gets the data. And then I have params that I could pass. And a lot of times, if you do want to have access to the values in the params, like in some of my examples, I make this a function. So we could pass a param, pass it into this function, and then I could run this QS to stringify it here. There's an example, I guess. Let's see, where would I have the get ID by server? So here you could see, no, not this one, get project by user ID. But okay, I forgot where I'm using it, but it doesn't matter. We'll come back to that in a second. So we're getting all projects. And so we have this populate and we have filter. And so what I should be able to do is I should be able to, and I'm still trying to remember all the filters. I think it's filters. and that takes an array, I believe. And if you're stuck, because we're using Strapi as our API, we could go to Strapi developer docs, and I could type filter, and then I could take a look of what we need. And so this is Strapi entity service, and it shows like the filters. I think it's filters, not in the backend, but Strapi REST API filters. And so we can take a look here, and they'll show some examples here. And so filters is an object, and we could do equals. Although I'm kind of curious, because I think I could omit that. Like, I don't think I need to do that. That's actually a really good question. But don't be shy. Rely on the documentation. And I believe I should literally do filters as public true. Kind of what I did when getting, what the hell we were getting. I don't remember anymore. Projects, get projects by ID, get projects by user ID. Yeah, so in theory, you should be able to pass an object, and instead of says equals, you just say the thing. We'll try it out. And this is, let's experiment. Hey, what's up? Yeah, Mark is an awesome dude. Love him a lot. Really good channel. Check out Mark's Gang on YouTube. And welcome. Glad to have you here. I'm just talking about building my projects that I'm building with React, with Remix and Strapi, which is pretty cool. And so let's see. So we want to go to our get all projects. Now I'm seeing an issue here because I am using this to get all projects. If I put the filter here, it will always get public projects. So what I'm going to do is, instead of making the change here, because I do want to have this, I'm going to make a specific thing to get all public projects. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go here into projects, new file, and I'll refactor later to figure stuff out. Get all public projects.server.js. Let's do this. We're going to call it get all public. I don't know why I want to put K in public. And then here we're going to do filters, and I believe, and we're going to do is public true. I think that should work. And now let's make this change inside our projects here, because we're getting get all public projects, and that method is called this. All right, so let's check it out. Let's see if we got all. Let's see if we set up our query correctly, and see if we're getting just the public projects. So let's go to our here code here. Let's refresh. Let's inspect. Oh wait, what am I doing? I'm not even in the right place here. I'm like losing my mind. Localhost 13. So projects, get all public projects, server not found. I guarantee you it's a spelling mistake. Get all, of course, pubic. Get all pubic. Get all rename. Look at that. Get all public. That's not how you spell public. Let's try again. Yeah, spelling is going to be like the downfall of me. Like the downfall. And still wrong. Projects. Listen, I give up. I can't spell. God help us all. Projects. And so if your spelling is bad as mine, go ahead and smash the like button. It's perfectly fine. That's a good question. I think it's a convention to kind of remind yourself that all those things are going to be run on the server. So that's all server-side code. Although, now to think of it, I have to look into it. That's a really good question, Cody. There might be a way to signify that. Actually, probably true. I'll have to double check. But I think that's how you signify which files you want to run on the server versus running it on the front end. I'm assuming that's the thing. So, but the great question, I will have to look into it. To be honest, like I'm not 100% sure, but it would make sense to do that. So let's see, did I spell things right? I did. Great job, Paul. Pat on the back. You, after 10,000 times, you spelled things right. Let's inspect. Let's see console log. And what are you talking about? Server error. What are you telling me? No, refresh. Perfect. And check this out. We filtered by public is true, so we are getting the public projects that we have available, which is amazing. And so now what we could do is within our Strapi app, we could go to our projects and notice how we had one project. Not authors, project. One project is public, and then the other project we had is not public, and we're able to filter that out. And again, we'll move this logic to the back end eventually, but for now, I'm gonna set the second project to true. And so when we go back, by the way, I'm gonna be doing an amazing stream. Thank you, Cody, for having me on your channel, but on Sunday, we're going to be talking about getting started with Remix, experimental features using nested routing and using the use hook from React, which is going to be awesome. Of course, you're going to be using Strapi, so put that in your calendar, check it out. Web Dev Junkie creates amazing content. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to it. But back to our code. So now if I refresh, notice now we're getting the two items, which again, the public stuff. And so now we could go ahead and render the data, and we're going to keep it simple for now. So again, my philosophy, get things to work rather than trying to get everything right from start, because you could always refactor. My thing, rule one, get it to work. Two, refactor, make it better. That's it. Like, I don't try to make things perfect from the start. So let's kind of go back here. So we are getting the data. That is fantastic. Okay. And now what we're going to do, we're going to pass that data we're getting to our project list component. Perfect. That sounds like a Street Fighter thing. And we're getting the data, we're passing it to our project. Fantastic. So I'm gonna now go inside our project's component, and I'm going to take a look to make sure that we are truly getting the data, and we're gonna see what we get, and then we could start to make sense of it. So perfect, we're getting our data, and what we want to do is we want to iterate through our data here. So we're going to do data, we're going to map through it. For now, I'm just going to remove this and just console log what we're getting. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's take a look. Do everything in steps. Don't rush. There's no need to rush. No need to go crazy with stuff. And we're going to return our item. We're just going to keep it generic. I guess we could say project. Return project, and then we probably need a key here, and we'll fix this. Don't worry. I just like to do things. Let me show the thing. Look, that's not how you spell project. Yeah, and by the way, if you're wondering how smart do you have to do to be a programmer, let me be the testament that you need to be not that smart, but it helps. And you could always continue learning things. But anyway, so let's take a look here. So are we here? Let's console log our project, and we'll do that attributes. So let's refresh. Let's take a look. Perfect. Look, now we're able to get our title. We're able to get some of our data, so we're able to work and do things. Very fantastic. We're making progress. My cat looks like he's about to attack something, so let me preemptively move her because I don't want her to jump off my table like a maniac. She's does that a lot. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncomment this code. We're going to do it in steps here. Okay. This is what we're gonna return. Let me cut this out, put this in here. Yeah, and if you have any questions, any comments, let me know. I want to have a conversation that literally goes both ways. I don't want to be the only one talking, you know, like this is not just for me to fail live and cry. It's about all of us participating together. So that's probably gonna break our code because post is not defined. That's perfectly fine. What I'm gonna do for now, just so things are not like super broken, I'm gonna kind of comment out stuff that has data, and we'll refactor all of this later. No big deal for us. This is not a rush. Beautiful. We just want to do one step at a time here. So, okay, perfect. We're getting our data. So first thing, let's destructure some of the items that we're getting. So I'm going to do const. I know we have title, and it's coming from our project's attributes. And so now I'm able to use that title somewhere here. Category name. We'll figure out later with the post title. So it's here. Post title, post description. So we're gonna. My mouse sometimes, I don't know. I know we have description as well. So let me destructure description from our from the data that we get back. So now we're gonna change this. We're gonna do this by, we'll figure it out how we do this. For now, I'm just gonna put whatever. We'll figure it out. No big rush here. One step at a time. I'm not worried about it. So we just want to get basic data. So notice we're getting the names, we're getting the description. What else that we want to get? I don't think I have a category name currently, which we could add later. So let me see. What do we actually have? We have our tag used, which we could throw in there. And what I'm going to do, because I already created a little component in our dashboard here. Whenever you go here, you're able to get this. So I'm going to kind of steal that component from our projects. And that probably should be a reusable component. And if it's not, that's one way to start to kind of define what should be abstracted away or create into a reusable component or not. So I believe that was in components and maybe project markdown profile header, project details page. Let's see here. We're getting the avatar, name, full name, index, tag list. So I did not make this a separate component. So what I can do is I could tag list here. I could turn it into a component, so I don't have to repeat myself, but I'll do this later. For now, I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to use it in my project. So we want to get tech use. This is going to be tech use. So right now I'm going to kind of put this here. This is going to blow up here. It's fine. We'll fix it in just a minute. But for now, I just want to copy this. And let me make sure that I am getting that from my response. Tag use. So image name, quote. Oh, wrong one. We're here. Title tech. So we are getting tech and it's a string. Fantastic. Testing stuff. And let me kind of check this out here. Project attributes. I'm kind of curious now. I'm always curious. Tech list. tag list map. There's got to be an additional step that I'm using to take the string and turn it into array. So let's go to project details. Let's check it out. Tag list. So here we are. I think I'm gonna see, this is a great example. Okay, I have some repeatable code that I'm gonna be reusing. So this could be abstracted away in its own component that handles doing the string split, turning into array. So for us to be able to iterate through the tag used and create those single entries, which I will do later. But for now, just for the time being, I'm just gonna kind of repeat myself, do some wet. So, and then tag, what is it? Actually, that's not gonna be living here. I lied to you. It's gonna be where we're iterating through our data. And before we handle that, I wanna take a look. What is it called? So it's called tag. Yeah, perfect. So I'm gonna destructure tag. Perfect. And then it's a comma, Paul. Come on. What are you doing? Tag. And then I'm gonna comment this and then tag list. Control copy. So that works. So now if I undo this, in theory, we should have our tag displayed in our project here. And perfect. We have our tag displayed. And what's cool now, if someone adds an additional thing here, remix and Strapi, and save, go back to our blah, blah, blah. Notice it's right there. Beautiful. And so we get the basic thing showing. And so the last thing we're going to do before ending the stream, because you get the idea, we created that section for our post. Let's just display the image for now, and we could do everything later in the next stream. So let me go to projects detail, because I already kind of repeating myself here. We want to get this. Actually, let me double check here. I just hate typing stuff because you all see how I suck at typing. But basically what we need to do, I guess I'll do it like here. Let me refresh. Well, no. Oh, yeah. That's because of all the unnecessary anchor tags we want, which we'll fix later. It's no big deal. No worries about that. Right now, let's just display the image. So our image is coming from featured image, data, attributes, and then we have different formats. I'm just gonna get the formats medium. So wow, that's pretty nested. That's okay. By the way, you can use an SDK that's we have unofficially with Strapi that allows you to simplify this response or flatten it if you want. For me, I'm not worried about that right now, so it's no big deal. So we want the featured image in our projects. So we're mapping through our projects. We have our featured image, I believe we have it called. Let's console log what it is so we could destructure the rest of the stuff out. Featured image. And so .data, .attributes, just off memory, I'm like whatever. .attributes, I think formats, and let's do medium URL. I think that's the one we want. Perfect. Here we are. We're getting it. And I'm gonna call this Control X. I'm gonna call it image, const image URL equals the thing we just did here. And now inside here, I'm going to pass my image, image URL. And then we could probably get access to all text as well here. So notice, boom, it works. We have our projects. And the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get, and again, what I like to do things with this like simplest idea of getting things to work, not having to display all the data, but we created the logic on our back end with Strapi. We tested getting our requests using Insomnia to make sure that our API works. We know we're getting the data. Then we created the front-end UI to display the data, and then we connected ability to make a call to our API. In Remix, we use the loader function. We get the data, we pass it to our project. So we literally close the circle from our backend, creating the data and serving it to our front end, and then our front end accepting the data and displaying it. So everything else is just adding the details, but the general basic functionality works. So that's pretty awesome. So that is amazing. That is amazing. And so the one refactor that I have to make here now is because we now have this is public option that we want to set to false when people create, the project. And in Strapi, what we were able to do, we were able to set this by default is going to be false. So I don't really have to do anything on the front end, but we can pass is public equals false to set it not public originally, but whatever. So next thing, what I want to do here is, let's see here. So everything works, I think. Let me go back here. So, and we'll check the thing that I'm talking about. If I'm mumbling, it's because I'm trying to think out loud. So let me close these. Okay, so what have we done so far? We created today this project section, which will basically return all of our projects that are public. And so in our content manager, if we have a project that, let's say, is private, and we refresh, it's not gonna return it. So notice how we're only getting one. And eventually I'll add all the additional data. We'll add the follow button to follow the project. But for now, we know it works. We know it's getting stuff done. That is beautiful. We created that connection. And the last thing I wanna do is I wanna go to dashboard here. And currently right now, I should be able to add a project. And when we add a project, it should be automatically set to false. So it's not gonna display in our public projects, but it will display it here in the dashboard. So let's check it out. Let's see, do I have any good pictures here? This looks like a good picture to use. Title, test, project. And if it blows up, it blows up. It's work in progress, test project, tech use, React, Strapi, Tailwind, whatever, test. So I'm gonna create this. Let's see if it blows up. Okay, so that created, we just created this test project. By default, this should be set to false. So let's check it out here. So we refresh our API backend, go to projects. That's not the one we just created, the one we created. And by the way, if you want to edit this to display more relevant data, you could kind of adjust here. So I want to see what's public or not. Let's save, confirm. And so now I go back, and now in the view, I could see which one is public. So we just created another project, and notice, hold on, we created test project here. I'm lying to you. This is the one we just created, and notice by default, it's automatically sets it to false, which is awesome. So not in this video, but in the next video, the next functionality we're gonna add is allow us from dashboard to change which post is public, which project is public, which project is not. And so for now though, let's take a look. In our dashboard, we should see our both public and private projects. So as you can see, we have all our projects here, be able to see them. That's fantastic. But if someone is not a logged in user, right? I'll log out here, I go to projects. Notice we're only showing one project that is public. So this is awesome. So if I want to display this, I need to set it to true, and in the next video we'll handle this from the front end, but from now just want to test it from the back end. And if we go back, I refresh, boom, right there, we're making progress. So we have our dashboard for our logged in users. We now have our public post displayed for our public users, and eventually we'll add a follow button if you want to follow the project and work together with the user. But with that being said, I think we made some awesome progress. So quickly review what we did before we do final thoughts. So the first thing we did, number one is we decided that we want to have a section which shows public projects. So the first thing we did is we added this flag in Strapi to signify which projects are public and which are not. Then we used Insomnia to test our API first before doing anything on the front end. We wanted to make sure, are we getting the data that we want from our API? Once we tested our API and made sure it worked, we created our UI, which we created this projects component, which basically displays the card and the projects. And I cheated because I hate writing CSS from scratch. So I literally used Tailwind UI library. This one is paid, but there's a lot of free options available. And I literally just stole their component. I didn't steal it. I have the rights to use this. And I went and I literally just took this and I was like, oh, this looks nice. So let me use this for my project layout. And so we created our UI. Once our UI was created, what we did is we handled the data loading. So in Remix, we have the loader function that allows you to make your API call server side. We made this controller or function that basically would get all of our public projects from Strapi. And once this runs and we get the data back, we're able to hydrate that data in our front end by using the use loader data that comes from Remix. It's a hook part of Remix. And then we pass that data to our project UI component and we iterate through the data and then we render it to our screen. So if you have any questions, let me know. If not, I totally get it. And now we're able to display public projects. So we're making progress. That is awesome. And with that being said, by the way, I just want to thank all of you in the chat. And if you have questions, let me know. I want to thank everybody in the chat. I know these Friday streams are quiet because Friday usually people have things to do. But for me, I made Friday and Saturday my streaming days. And so for now, like what I'm doing is I'm streaming regardless how many of you sign up and join the stream, right? Because you can always rewatch it tomorrow. But for me, I'm going to keep doing it. And Coding with Fall, no, thank you so much. Like, really appreciate it. I'm glad you like the project. I love what you're doing. Man, I just want to continue to do stuff that provides value to the community and at the same time allows me to become a better developer. Really appreciate all your support. And like I said, you don't have to support the channel. You can buy me coffee if you like, but you don't have to. 100%. I'm doing this just because I want to be honest, I'll tell you the selfish reasons why I continue to do these streams. Number one, I find that YouTube, the more reach I get, the more connections I'm able to make with other people that lead to opportunities, which is amazing. And the second thing I like about doing this channel is that I'm literally practicing what I preach, like how to improve in coding, build things from scratch. It's okay to struggle. The process of getting hired. Like I'm some random dude who went from being a rando online who did not have a coding job, and now I work for Strapi, and I had 3 web development positions prior to starting Strapi. So I went from not knowing anything, growing in front of your eyes on YouTube, which is a great motivator for anybody wondering, is it possible to change careers late in your 30s? It's super possible. And the way you get better is by building stuff from scratch, struggling through the process. And this is why I do everything publicly, to show you this is the thing I do. Who cares if people judge you? We could have a hater jump in here and be like, Paul, you suck. I'll be like, who cares? At least I'm coding. At least I'm doing something about it, right? You know, and that's what I want to encourage all of you to do. And Callan, thank you so much. Great to have you. And Callan, let me know the date and time I want to have you on the stream. I would have you on the stream as many times as you want to come because I have so many questions that I want to ask. One thing Callan is really good at is writing documentation or explaining things in Word form, which is really important because the coolest thing, I don't want to say the coolest thing, but as a developer, you need to keep improving your skill as a writer to be able to write documentation about what you're doing at work. And Callan's really good at it. So I'd love to pick your brain around that topic, around the topic of starting a SaaS product because you have one that's very successful, which is awesome. And by the way, if you're brand new to coding, writing mini blog posts about what you're doing is a good practice to practice writing documentation, which is something you will do as a developer, you always especially if you're working remote, you always have to document the process, and the better you get at it, the better you'll be at it. And then yeah, and thank you, Coding with Fun. What you are doing will take your skill to the next level. And it's been showing. That's kind of the reason why I do it. And I want to motivate other people to do it. And I have been working as a full stack engineer for 5 months now. And yeah, I remember talking with you, before you got hired. And it's so beautiful and wonderful to see other people getting hired, in their 30s. I'm in my 40s now. And it's just, if there's a will, there's a way, right? The one thing I want to say, forget the myth of getting hired in 3 months, full stack development, making 6 figures. Just focus on becoming the best developer you can. Go through the process. It might take you a year. It took me almost 3.5 years. I literally was on the slow plan because I made so many mistakes. And so I just do the work. The work is hard, but it is really rewarding when you learn. Like I said, like Callan is a great example of it. He has the skill to get a job as a developer, but because he's an amazing developer, he also is able to create his own product, and he created a SaaS product he's doing pretty well with it. And to me, it's amazing. Not only are you able to be hireable because you have a high in-demand skill, but you also have the skill to, if you have an idea that solves a bunch of people's problems, you could create your own product and your own. And I really appreciate your honesty. Like, Coding with Fun, thank you. It took me 2 years because the worst thing you could do is set unrealistic expectations of what it takes to get hired, because if you don't get hired in 3 months, 6 months, a year, you will get discouraged. Don't worry about the time that will take you. Worry about the process that it takes to become a good developer. It took me 3.5 years. It took Coding with Phono 2 years. Some people do it in a year. It depends. And yeah, maybe some people somehow got lucky in 3 months, but that's atypical. And so make sure you set things, realistic expectations. And by the way, if you do want to support this channel, you could always buy me coffee. You don't have to, but it will help to get a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, which maybe will take 100 years, but that'll be amazing. Completely straight up selfish. But at the same time, you don't have to donate anything. Don't worry about it. It's like, if people want, I want to give an option. And if you don't want, you don't have to. Just smash the like button, subscribe, or just enjoy the videos. It doesn't really matter what you do. I'm going to have fun regardless. And if you're wondering when I stream Friday nights, 9 p.m. CST time, and Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Fridays, it's all technical. It's all about coding. And Saturdays, it's all about soft skills, strategies of breaking the field, like roadmap, what should you learn, stuff like that, how to write your resume, good stuff. And so I'll be back tomorrow morning, and we have a guest. It's going to be awesome. Another person who switched their careers late in their life. And let's see what else. And I just want to say, we took a look at the code. We worked. We did great stuff. I just want to say thank you for all the amazing people. Yeah, and 100%, 3 months is not really realistic, but some people are like Krishan. Don't get me started. I don't want to talk about anything. But yeah, some people get lucky. Some people... Luck is preparation and hard work. And I would be skeptic. I think 3 months, it's like, did it really take you 3 months? Or did you just say that because it sounds nice, but you literally did more time? Whenever someone says I did something 3 months, I'm highly skeptic. Because in 3 months, I didn't know anything. Did you code that animation? You mean on my stream? No, I'm too lazy. I don't code anything like fancy. I will just find something that already is done and use it. Maybe once so this is how I look at things. Like, I don't code anything that I don't have to. So if there's a thing that helps me to get to production faster, I will use it. Hence, that's why I use Strapi and Remix, because I want to go to market as fast as possible. Once I get to market, once I get users, once I have a way to generate income from the thing that I built, then I could start. Oh, the car animation, I guess I didn't create it. I got it from, I forgot, Storyblocks or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that crazy. Like, to me, it's all about leverage other things people created, so I could go to market faster, get users on an application, and start getting feedback instantly, and then I will refactor. And the coolest thing, here's like one thing I'm going to say before I go is, so I worked for this company where we basically had an MVP, and we decided to build it with Strapi and create React app. And I was able to do it as a solo developer, create like 90% of the application. And as we proved the concept, we started getting test users. Then once we saw the process worked, we hired additional developers to take it to the next level. And after we proved concept, we knew we were going to have users. They actually hired another UX UI person to redo the whole application, but it was already working. It was deployed. We were able to have users. So don't try to do everything before you know your idea works. So 100% build the most minimal viable product as fast as possible. You can't get it to market, get users on it so you could get feedback, start getting it being profitable, even if it's like 2 paying users, before you start adding additional changes, right? Test the idea first, bring it to market first, solve people's problems, and then think about the rest of the refactoring and all this other stuff. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody. You all are awesome. I agree. Coding with Phono Strapi is amazing. And I've used Strapi before getting hired there. To me, I'm so in love with it. Use it for every project. But what I want to say, thank you so much to all of you. Code with Phono, Northern Chimp, Cody, Web Dev Junkie, Sharket, Sparks. Amazing to see you here. And, so many awesome people that joined. Kellen, it was amazing to have you. Eli, man, thank you so much. And with that being said, thank you for watching Coffee Code and Chat. I'm going to head on out in my dream Ferrari that I'll probably never have. But, dreaming, there's nothing wrong with dreaming. So I'm going to head out home and do my pretend drive home in this amazing sunset that we're having in this amazing retro 80s style city. But thanks for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow if you're able to make it. If not, I'll see you in the next stream. Have a good night, good weekend. Good day, good morning if you're just waking up, because I know that's a thing. So have a great, Callan, have a great weekend. And we will definitely have you on the stream as many times as you're willing. You're an awesome dude, like everybody here. So take care, good night. See everybody later. Time to eat some dinner. Bye, everyone.